Primary sources present original research or findings for the first time. They are the earliest information available and often contain first-hand or eyewitness information, original thinking, or original data on a topic. Primary documents enable the researcher to get as close as possible to what actually happened during an historical event or time period. Examples of primary sources include original manuscripts, eyewitness accounts, letters, interviews, court reports, legislation, newspaper advertisements, and journals or diaries. They can also include photographs, drawings, posters, film footage, songs, and interviews. In the science disciplines, primary sources include results of original research, experiments, or thoughts and datasets. Primary sources can sometimes be housed in private collections, although many are located in archives, museums, libraries, and special collections around the world. Once you locate a collection, how do you find the resources that interest you? If the collection is private, you will need to speak to the custodian. If the collection is public, there will be someone to help you in your quest for records. Often primary sources allow us to connect and engage with history in a more meaningful way. They can allow us to develop the essential skills of analysing and evaluating and give us a better understanding of a historical period. Since primary sources are created by individuals, they are often diverse and unique opinions on the events they describe. Primary sources can help make history come alive. However, it is important to be mindful that using primary sources can have its disadvantages. Sometimes the primary source will not be in an easily accessible or complete format. This may make it difficult for you to develop a full picture. While often a primary source may appear self-explanatory, it's important to also consider the background, time period, and context of the time to ensure you have interpreted it correctly. Also, just because a resource is a primary source, this does not automatically make it more reliable than a secondary source. This can be for several reasons, including the potential for subjectivity and bias of the creator, their memory limitations or misinterpretation of the event, and even what they chose or didn't choose to include to share. This is especially true of eyewitness accounts, diaries, journals, and interviews, and why it is important to always evaluate and consider each resource that you use. Whether or not a source can be considered both primary and secondary depends on the context. In some instances, material may act as a secondary source for one research area and as a primary source for another. For example, a newspaper article about the Newcastle earthquake can be used both as a primary and secondary source. The newspaper article can be considered a primary source as it provides first-hand eyewitness accounts, reports, photographs, and any information about the earthquake as it happened in real time. That same newspaper article can be considered a secondary source if it is used later by a historian who references the newspaper article in a book about natural disasters in the 20th century, or a geologist who cites the article in a research paper discussing the geological factors contributing to the earthquake. In these instances, the newspaper article is no longer providing direct, first-hand information about the event, but rather is being used to support broader historical or scientific interpretations, making it a secondary source. It is also important to consider how you will keep track of your primary sources. It is recommended that you record who created it, when it was created, the title of the material, the collection name, the collection number or identifier, and the repository name. It is often difficult to retrace your steps, so taking these careful notes is crucial. The University of Newcastle Library stores most of our local primary resources, in a repository called Living Histories. The resources in Living Histories are provided at a high resolution and are downloadable. Any content on this site is free to be used for research or study purposes. You can find out more about accessing and using the repositories by viewing the Using Living Histories video. If you'd like more information, contact the library.